Hello, 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 and welcome to Updog Sports Talk.
Ooh,
Yeah, that
like
was
that.
good, wasn't it? Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna start doing this more often, a little bit more pizzazz. My name is Matt Miller. The voice that you heard and possibly the face that you've seen, Justin McGovern.
What is up?
Not much,
I
man.
am,
Excited for our top 25 today. Um,
yeah. Are we actually live? Because I'm
we are
not
actually
seeing
live.
there it is. All right.
We are a no budget show, so we have to occasionally check to make sure everything's working properly. And on my end, it's showing that we're live. Sometimes it delays onto YouTube. So yeah. So today we are going over our top 25 for college football. A little bit different than the AP poll. We're definitely going to be different than the college football playoff poll. I know that for a fact when we get there later this year. Um,
Oh yeah.
and there's a few people out there that'll rip our poll to shreds. There are a few people out there that may like our poll. Um, if you like our poll, feel free to like us. If you don't like our poll, tough. It's our poll. Just comment that you don't like your poll and move on. Just kidding.
So
Uh,
we do this differently than most people do polls because we don't deal with the preseason rankings. Preseason rankings are stupid. Nothing's happened on the field yet. We try to ignore the rankings in any other rankings as much as we can during the first month of the year. And then finally, after a month of football has been played, we then, with a fresh state of mind, go in and rank teams based on where we think they belong, based on what they've done so far. And, just kind of how they look on the field. We look at quality wins. There's a visual aspect of just like, how does the team look when they're playing? And yeah, so that's how we do our rankings. And we finished this Sunday. We actually got on this pretty quickly on Sunday. I think we actually got this done before the AP rankings even came out. And I will say off the back right now, we finished our rankings, and I was absolutely floored when I looked at the AP rankings intentionally for the first time this year. I could not believe the order that some of these teams were in.
I know, dude. I
So
mean,
let's
there's
put like
one
the
that
lead in here.
there is at least one team that we probably could have had in the top 25, but you know, it's our poll, so we didn't add them. You'll find out who that is. You may not, because we probably won't mention it in like 30 seconds. I'm going to forget about this anyway. Um, so jumping right in, Justin, you want to pull up the slides?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll deal with the same struggles we had last week, but that'll be fine.
Justin is not very bright when it comes to like technology. It's the bane of his existence. Like he's like a boomer, and I am a millennial, and I have to talk him through how to do everything when it comes to technology.
yeah, yeah.
Taxes, he gets to talk me through how to do that because that's not my forte.
It
He does come with perks. I'm not just bashing him all around. He does have his perks. Just technology is not one of them.
and right now, technology is the opposite of my friend. I will tell you what. I get an error that says I can't share my screen every single time.
Okay, well, when Justin figures it out, we'll start. But in the meantime, we actually were one of the very few shows in the country that had Alabama beating Georgia. Every
Yeah,
everybody that I looked at had Georgia beating Alabama. And the only reason why that game was close because Alabama was just like, you know what, we're up big. Let's just run base offense, very base packages, no motions, nothing. Let's just run plays. And then it wasn't until Georgia took the lead. They're like, you know what? Maybe we should play a little bit more. So, yeah, we called that one. Not to brag or anything, but we kind of know our stuff.
Yeah, we
Outside
absolutely
of
killed it there.
We're experts in our job, and we're experts with college football.
Yeah. By the way, we maintain a huge winning record, I think, with our picks. We're currently right now, Matt is 33-17. I have taken the lead from him at 34-16.
He's cheated. You're
Nope.
cheating.
I just picked the right teams. We may have to find a different way to do this because we are having, no matter what, is declining me right now. Everything I've tried.
I have a question.
What is your question, sir?
Hit the present button. There's nothing in like settings that I can change, so it's like a you thing.
This is all right. So we're gonna go without visual representation here, I guess, because everything technology has failed us today. Number one in our poll is the Alabama Crimson Tide. We were just talking about their impressive win over Georgia. They absolutely throttled them at the start of this game.
I don't know if they're a better team than with Nick Saban, but they certainly are a more explosive offense.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see what the secondary looks like throughout the year. In the offensive line, but I mean, just some of the stuff that they run on offense. At least while they were running an offense, like you said, they kind of packed it in once they got 28-0. Just the motions and stuff they were doing pre-snap. They had the Georgia defense in a blender early in that game, and Georgia just could not figure out a way to stop them. It was unreal to watch. So that is their key win so far. I think the South Florida is an okay win, but South Florida's also been blown out a couple other times right now, so that one did not show up on my quality wins list. But we'll move on here to number 2 in our rankings, the Texas Longhorns. This team also had one of the top statement victories this year when they rolled into Ann Arbor and just destroyed Michigan from the beginning.
Annihilated, or as my brain read when I was younger, annihilated.
Annihilated.
And I'm like, I feel stupid. But yeah, Texas is a good team. I do think they are better with Quinn Ewers under center just because of his experience. I think once Arch Manning can kind of get a little bit more consistency going, I think at that point they'd be completely unstoppable because they would have 2 quarterbacks that are the best in the nation. But as of right now, I mean, they're a tough team to beat.
Yeah, I agree. They look a lot better up front than I expected to. Like, that was probably the biggest surprise to me when they took on Michigan, was just how they control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball against a team that had been running everyone else at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That was a huge statement. Ever since then, Texas has kind of coasted a little bit. If I had the thing up, like their key wins, I had at Michigan and then UL Monroe, ? Because the Warhawks have only lost to Texas so far.
So I think that what Texas is doing with these like smaller games is literally just trying to figure out like more with the roster. I think they're just using this as a chance for Arch Manning. I think they're using it as a chance to like run different packages and plays that they really haven't shown against the bigger teams. And then we'll start seeing that develop a little bit more against the bigger teams later in the season. But especially this weekend, isn't it Texas, Oklahoma, or is that later in the month?
Next weekend.
Oh, okay. I get my weekends.
So they're on a bye week. So like if you looked and you saw next opponent would say Oklahoma. But that's because they're on a bye week before they play each other.
Okay. Next on our list is at number 3 is don't say the Ohio State University. They I mean they haven't shown a reason not to be in the top 3, but they really in my opinion they really haven't played anybody either, so they really haven't shown a reason to be number 1.
You nailed it on the slide that I never got to pull up. It says key wins, no quality wins.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in the spot based on talent alone. This is probably more of a projection at this point, but they've been in control of all of their games so far. For the most part, they've done pretty much all we could ask of them, and there's not a whole lot to say because their season really hasn't begun
yet. Yeah. Number 4, we have the Tennessee Vols. I think this team with Nico is just unstoppable. I mean, there are a few teams that'll give him like this, especially in the top 3 that would give him hell, but I think this team is even better with Nico than Hendon Hooker or who's our QB last year?
Joe Milton.
Yeah, Joe Milton. Joe Milton, like
a lot better.
Yeah,
a lot better than with Joe Milton. Yeah, they trust Nico to throw the deep passes, which is something that they honestly even took out of the offense a lot last year because they didn't trust Milton's accuracy. So that element is back. They can still run the ball really well. But Matt, you know what the big difference maker might be for this Tennessee team?
Their defense.
It might be it's the defensive side of the ball. They've looked, now they haven't gone up against the best competition. NC State, I didn't even include them as a key win because NC State's just a total bust this year. And then Oklahoma is a key win for now. And both those teams have massive problems on offense. So, like that playing an offense like that can always make your defense look good. But in general, like just what I've seen from them, I feel like they're going to be able to hold up against anyone on their schedule as well. I'm very impressed with what the defense has to offer. I mean, just the pass rush is going to be, it's going to be a problem for Alabama when they play them, and even potentially for Georgia as well. So, Tennessee fans. I think we have a lot of followers that are Tennessee fans, and they are very excited about this team. And there's no reason for them not to be. This is the most exciting year for Tennessee football since Peyton Manning was there, I think. Like this is a very good team.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recall a time that Tennessee had this much hype. I mean, there was a stretch of 10 years where you and I were like, you know what, let's go to Tennessee and NCAA 14 and build them up because they're not doing it in real life.
Right. Yeah, no, and so many different coaches tried there.
Butch Jones.
There was the ill-fated Butch Jones experience. Actually, he had a couple decent years there. But yeah, the Butch Jones era that ended with the trash can celebration. Yeah. What a wild street trip that was.
We are on a little bit of a time crunch, so Tennessee, we love you. We may talk more about you down the road, but we got to move on to our number 5 team, the Oregon Ducks. I don't know if it's just like the world that I've been paying attention to, but I don't feel like Oregon is talked about nearly as much as they were when they were in the Pac-12. Is that just me?
Yeah. So I know also part of it's recency bias because I think Oregon's coming off a bye week. They haven't played a ton of competition. Like they had the back-to-back weeks, so they played Boise State and then Oregon State. And then after that, they've kind of coasted a little bit. Actually, I stand corrected. They did not have a bye week last week, but they played UCLA at 11 o'clock Eastern. So that one was really late. It wasn't competitive, so I honestly didn't catch much of that game. But This Oregon team still looks really good. Definitely worthy of the number 5 spot. But I think the one thing that feels lacking from them is like they just don't have the edge where they get out on the field and they're just destroying teams from the opening snap. They've eventually, other than the Boise State game, they've eventually pulled away from everyone they played, but it's taken them some time.
Yeah.
It's not as dominant a team. They still need to work on running the ball, but there's more tests down the line.
And it doesn't seem like Dylan Gabriel is as electric as like some of the other quarterbacks that have gone through there in recent years.
Yeah, it seems like Bo Nix had a better run of the offense than Dylan Gabriel does.
Yeah. Moving on to our number 6 team, and this may surprise quite a few people out there, and this may be one of the arguments that people would have against our poll, but we have the Georgia Bulldogs at number 6. And hey, I get it. They're not undefeated. A lot of people would put some other teams in front of them, but they did lose to our number 1 team. And alone that Justin and I went back and forth on this for quite a while, probably longer than we really should have. But when you compare the schedules, a lot of the schedule is very similar when it comes to like the strength of the teams that they're playing, except for Alabama. And that's the sole reason why I think that Georgia should be ahead of our number 7 team. And they were, in my mind, because we didn't do a poll in the last 5 weeks, in my mind, they were number 1 until they lost. So, like, you can't penalize them too many spots because they lost to the number 1 team, to the current number 1 team. So, I mean, do you have anything else to add, Justin? I think.
So we actually do have disagreements within the show sometimes. This is where I actually disagreed with you because I didn't want to do too much weight on a quality loss, just because teams can pile those up throughout the year and not be good. Look at Kent State.
But I think the quality
example,
losses, I think you can only be afforded 1, maybe 2 quality losses before you're like, all right, no, like you're not what we thought you were. And like right now it's only 1. So I'll give them the 1.
Yeah.
If it gets to 2, then we can start using your argument a little bit more. But I think there is a limit on that. I don't think it's just like Georgia loses 4 games, but they lost to the top 4 teams in college football. No, I don't. I think there is a limit to where we cut that off at.
Yeah. And I think also what really put them up there though was the dominant win over Clemson, where they just dismantled them off the field in that opening game. That was a good win for Georgia. That being said, my last point on Georgia before we move on is I'm deferring from the public on this one. I was not impressed with the comeback. I think a lot of the product of the comeback that Georgia did last week was because Alabama stopped running the defensive stunts that gave the offensive line trouble. Alabama stopped running the motions and shifts on offense. They kind of packed it in a little bit. Alabama kind of packed it in a little bit too soon, which is why Georgia was able to come back because, Alabama kind of underestimated them. Also, that's kind of a thing that Kalen DeBoer's teams do. They did that a lot at Washington where they kept like jumping on teams early and then would let the other team come back and then would get that last moment dagger to win the game.
Yeah, and I think
might be something that we see from Alabama a lot.
I think to add to your point, like the Alabama team is really good, has a lot of substance to the team. But like when it comes to the coaching, you gotta coach it a little further. You can't give up that early. Put the pedal to the floor, have it go a little bit longer to where it's like almost impossible to come back. They did it when they were like, you know what, it's possible but not probable. But
and I was so disappointed too because as Matt Brown from Extra Points put it, rarely is an Alabama win funny. and he asked this early in the game. Like he was like, "Rarely is an Alabama win funny, but wouldn't it be funny if Alabama just blasted Georgia by 35 points?" And like that could have happened. I think if Alabama kept the pedal to the metal, they could have beaten Georgia really badly, and it would have been an incredible statement by Alabama. Likewise, a rare low point for Kirby Smart's Georgia team. I will put it this way, Georgia is still going to make the playoff most likely, but I have a national championship ticket on them, and I am worried that I am basically making a donation to Vegas at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I did that last year in the NFL. We've talked quite a bit about Georgia and Alabama. The SEC we are not an SEC program. Moving on to our number 7 team, and this is where you can make a case for them to be above Georgia at number 6, is Miami, Florida. They've had a great year. Cam Ward is gonna be probably, if he doesn't win Heisman, definitely second or third at the rate he's playing. But Miami, my drawback is they've had too many stumbles in games that they should have completely blown out. Like they, who they play last week?
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they almost lost to Virginia Tech. I mean,
yeah,
it ended up being further at the end of the game, but like Virginia Tech was winning for a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, you could argue that Virginia Tech had better clock management. They very well could have won that game. That's a Virginia Tech problem. I mentioned that in our blog this week, so that's been covered there. For Miami, like they've looked impressive in blowout wins outside the Virginia Tech game. The Virginia Tech game exposed some scares we have with their defense. That's ultimately what put them like below Georgia, was concerns about Miami's defense. And also their wins were impressive at the time, but are kind of coming up empty now. They had to win at Florida, but Texas A&M also dominated Florida. They win at South Florida, but Tulane also blew out South Florida. So you see where we're still trying to figure out what Miami is, but there's a lot to like about the team as well, which puts them up to 7. But there's also enough reasons to put us a pause where they're not higher.
Yeah. But
next is
in a similar situation as Miami, Penn State at number 8. That rhymed. But like they've shown flashes of who they could be, but they haven't absolutely dominated everybody. And
yeah,
I think that's what a lot of us are waiting to see from Penn State, because we hold Penn State to a high esteem, such as Ohio State, such as Michigan, knowing that they aren't quite to that tier when it comes to like postseason success and whatnot. So like we're still waiting for Penn State to come out of that rut, so to speak. But they've had a solid year. They're undefeated. They beat West Virginia. Did they play Pitt, or was that West Virginia that played Pitt?
No, that was Illinois that they played.
Okay, yeah, they beat Illinois. They have a few quality wins, but not quality enough to jump them above Miami or Georgia. So
yeah,
that's why
I think the new offensive coordinator has really brought in some improvement. Like it looks visibly when you watch them play, the offense just looks better. It looks less clunky. But then there's a game against Illinois where you kind of start to see some of the old problems from last year kind of creep back up a little bit. 3 missed field goals, multiple missed fourth downs, stuff like that, where Penn State kept points off the board that they should have had. They won that game 21-7, but should have won by more. But that's all about Penn State. Moving on here, and one thing I will mention is like, you kind of categorize teams like where you think they belong and stuff. There's like, when you think of like a top 15 team, there's probably only that top 8 that I think of that's worthy of that. Everyone down below this point it was so hard to rank teams down at this point because a lot of these teams are kind of borderline. I'm not sure if they're worth a top 15 spot, but they're kind of there. First in that list, is
Missouri.
Missouri Tigers.
Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah. Missouri has the best wide receiver in college football. I mean, cases can be made for some of the guys at Ohio State, but right now they got a dog catching the ball. I think without him, we're not really having this same conversation. But
Yeah.
their quarterback is lighting it up. They've been holding everybody. I mean, like they've won games that thoroughly surprised me. I actually had them down and out on a couple of games, and this isn't the Missouri of old. This is a new brand of Missouri football, and I think it's here to stay for at least this year and maybe next year. So I mean, we have them at 9. They may be overrated in your eyes, but screw you, it's our poll.
No, I actually, like I ended up ranking them here just because I didn't have anyone else to put above them. I'm
no one
wondering
else.
if we over.
I mean, they're
Yeah,
undefeated, and like it's hard to put too many one-loss teams ahead of undefeated teams.
yeah. They have the home win over Boston College. That is fine. I'd like to see the passing game click more than it has at this point. I mean, Luther Burden has been killing it, but Brady Cook has been solid, but the offensive line hasn't protected as well. I'd like to see that click a little bit better for them. The Boston College win is solid, but they went to overtime with Vanderbilt. That at home, that was concerning to me. We'll see what they have moving forward, but that game brought some concern.
Yeah.
Number 10 on their list is the Iowa State Cyclones, currently undefeated out of the Big 12. This is one of Matt Campbell's best teams, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, like it doesn't have the big flashy names as like Brock Purdy or whoever that linebacker was that was playing quarterback a little bit.
Oh man,
I can't remember his name.
First name started with J, and then last name is Lanning.
Yeah, like they had 3 quarterbacks on that team, and they had stud running back. I don't remember who it was.
David Montgomery.
Yeah, was it David Montgomery for that team?
Yeah.
So they had David Montgomery,
and it was like the meme where it was like they basically called him like the perfect NFL running back or something like that. But this team is still really good though. They rolled into Iowa City and took down the Iowa Hawkeyes. That was a huge statement win.
But I will say if Iowa just sat on the ball a little bit longer, they could have won.
Well, see, we thought Iowa would do that, but Iowa State still came back. So that was a big thing. Yeah. That was the difference between this Iowa State team and other Iowa State teams in the past. The thing keeping them down from joining the teams up ahead of them is the rest of the schedule has not been that challenging. Sometimes their offense can go to sleep a little bit. Like this past week, it was asleep for a while against Houston, and then their running back broke a long run. The only highlight of that game was when their running back broke a long run, and then the announcer was like, "Abu Sama." So that was their only fun part. But this team is doing really, really well. It's going to be interesting to see them as Big 12 play really ramps up, but they're up to a strong start.
Especially, I don't know. I didn't take a look at Iowa State's schedule, but eventually, you'd have to assume they would play the next team on the list. So at number 11, we have the BYU Cougars.
Yeah.
They've been playing well, man. I mean, they have a good fit there in the Big 12.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think BYU, we probably underrated them even a little bit because
probably. We also did say that 9 through like 20 can be any of those spots. So
yeah,
we did give the disclosure that they could have been anywhere in there. So
yeah, that's the hard part. Was like it felt like there was only like 8 teams that wanted in the top 15, but then they have like 30 teams that wanted in the top 25. Like it was a challenging poll to do. But BYU has, obviously they made the statement with the Kansas State win. That's where everyone noticed them. But there is also the Friday night win in week 2 over SMU on the road. That win is aged really well.
Yeah.
At the time, it was an ugly looking game, and people were like, "Oh, SMU is going to be really, really bad." And SMU's in for a long year in the ACC. They lost to this BYU team, um, and it turns out no, actually, it's because BYU's defense is really good and really physical, and SMU is going to be fine. So yeah, this is a really good BYU team. Maybe one that we could have even ranked higher, but definitely a strong team so far.
Yeah, and speaking of strong teams, number 12, Michigan Wolverines. Um Case could be made that they're higher, case could be made that they're lower. Um I think 12 is a good spot for them. They really haven't had a lot of competition outside of Texas
And USC.
I mean that we'll get to them in a minute, um, but I mean, like Michigan is still going to be Michigan with or without Harbaugh. This team is more than likely going to make the playoffs unless they just absolutely choke the rest of the season. Um, but they still are a strong team. They still stick to the game plan from the past handful of years, and that's run the ball. I mean, they have a quarterback that can throw it, but they throw it when they have to, but they're a strong running team.
Matt, I will tell you, they're not throwing when they have to. They just run the ball, and if that doesn't get them anywhere, they just punt.
Well, I mean, I've seen Orgy throw the ball way downfield. So like, and it'd be caught. Let me just say that disclosure. So like I know Orgy can throw the ball, but the Orgy didn't start last game, did he?
Last game was the first time he started.
Okay, well, I think Orgy should have been starting from the
Actually,
beginning.
wait, sorry. He did start. He started the USC game. That was his first start, and he started last week as well.
I think he should have been starting all season. I think he's a better quarterback.
Yeah.
We mentioned this at the beginning of our conference previews that Orgy should have been starting. So I think they're a stronger team with Orgy at quarterback, and we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I think they're strong enough to make the playoff. But right now, we have them at 12.
Yeah. There's definitely the highs of beating USC. Obviously, USC still remains to be determined a little bit. We'll get on them in a little bit, but at the same time, like there are still concerns. Should not beat Minnesota that close. Should not have that close of a game in Minnesota. And yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens to them. Having to move on here. Number 13, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, they beat the teams that they should beat, and obviously nobody knows what the heck happened with that NIU game. They just fell flat on their faces. But I mean, Texas A&M is not a bad win, or not a bad win at all. I mean, that Texas A&M is starting to gain a little bit of steam in my eyes, but I think if they did more of a 2 quarterback system and had Angeli throwing the ball a little bit more, I think the offense would be a little bit better. They're really not that deep at receiver. That's my drawback with them. Is they lost a few receivers. They're really young there, and it just seems like nobody wants to play receiver there. I don't know why. But they're an excellent running team. Kind of the same as Michigan, to be honest. They're an excellent running team. Riley Leonard just runs all over the place. The key to winning is stopping him and trying to get through that elite defense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the one-loss teams with a very impressive set of wins. At Texas A&M, that's a really good win. Home against Louisville, that's another really good win. Obviously the Northern Illinois loss is a little bit questionable.
I mean, it's starting to look pretty good. I mean, not as good as losing to like a top 5 team, but like Northern Illinois is exceeding all expectations this season.
Well, it has not aged well since then because Northern Illinois has lost their last 2 games.
Well, they were still partying.
Northern Illinois is following the opposite of what they did against Notre Dame because they outgained Notre Dame and took advantage of all their opportunities. Ever since then, Northern Illinois is 0-2. They are now turning the ball over instead of taking advantage of their opportunities. Northern Illinois has outgained every opponent they played so far, but
Dang.
Turnovers are another story. Number 14, the Clemson Tigers. This one, it's kind of hard to judge because ever since the Georgia game, the eye test says that they've been playing really well, but they've also gone up against a few defenses that have capsized this year. For key wins on this one, I had Stanford, ? Because I think that's actually their best win at this point.
Yeah, and we could have ranked them lower, but quality loss came into play also. So, I mean, Clemson needs to be playing better than they are and better than they have been. But I feel like 14 is a respectable spot for them. I mean, case could be made to be lower. I understand that. But, I mean, they have, like, no quality wins.
Yeah, this is kind of more, it's more of an eye test thing at the moment for them. Next on our list is actually probably one of the team. This is the longest list of quality wins I had. The Kansas State Wildcats. They have beaten Arizona, won at Tulane, and beat Oklahoma State. But then they also had the blowout loss at BYU.
So my only beef with Kansas State is the fact that you ranked them last year and then they immediately lost. When Chad and I both argue with you that they should not have been ranked. So that's my only beef with them. They actually do look really good. They became a powerhouse in my college football 25, by the way, but like that's neither here nor there. They're a really good football team. I think that a case could be made, and we may have this conversation on the next poll, is maybe moving them up a little bit. I mean, they have the quality wins. They're in a deep conference. I mean, we got how many Big 12 teams on here?
We have a few. I don't know how many off the top of my head. I did not take account of conferences, but yeah, it is a very deep conference.
Five or six.
The Big 12 has a lot of top 25 teams. Big 12 was also a lot of top 30 teams. If you go into top 50, I mean, the Big 12 is a ton of top 50 teams.
Yeah.
The depth of the Big 12 is crazy, but obviously finding out who that top team is still a mystery. Obviously, Kansas State, they've made some statements against Arizona, Oklahoma State, but then they've also had, the road struggles, especially that BYU loss.
Yeah. We've talked enough about Kansas State. They're starting to give me a headache. Moving on to a team that really everybody wants to talk about. And I talked to a USC fan and I showed him our list a little early. And he said that you have this team ranked way too low. And it's USC. And I think, and I can speak for a lot of people on this, I think we actually have them maybe a little high.
Yeah. One of my first thoughts on USC is that, they have that win over LSU. But, we'll get to LSU in a moment. But the question is, are we thinking too highly of these teams?
I think so. I think too much stock right now is being put in Power 4 teams. And I think that's the case with USC. I think same with Caleb when Caleb Williams was there. Even as a 4-loss team, they were in the top 20 for a little bit. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. They may be one loss right now? One loss right now, right?
Yeah, Michigan loss. Only loss in Michigan.
But I mean, the eye test also says a lot. And the eye test says they're not, I mean, Miller Moss is a great player. But they don't have really a whole lot around him.
Yeah. I like they have a good set of receivers. I'll give them that. I like the second half rallies they've been doing. They've been a really good second half team. I was definitely ready to dump them off consideration completely when they trailed Wisconsin at halftime. That wasn't good. But at the same time, they came back and dominated that game. So that kind of keeps them up here. Next on our list is the Arizona Wildcats.
I think
Now,
Arizona's a very underrated team. Like, a lot of people are going to question.
This is one where they didn't show up in the poll. I was absolutely floored. I could not believe they were not ranked. Like, there's a lot of hype about them in the offseason. They had to win the Kansas State loss. Obviously they kind of switched things up. Dino Babers is no longer calling plays, and it worked really well. That gave him that huge win at Utah, which is not easy to do. That was a very impressive win. What are these polls doing that they're not ranked?
I don't know. I mean, like, Arizona surprised the hell out of me, and they just keep winning. Like, I don't. Like, do they not consider Utah that good of a team or something?
Well, they kept Utah ranked, but not Arizona. I actually, my theory is because it was an after dark game that they just, they fell asleep before the game really even started happening. And when they saw that Utah lost, they were like, oh, crap, and just quickly dropped Utah down the poll without rearranging anything else.
Yeah.
That's poll voting for you.
Yeah.
But this team's really good. One, they have potentially the best receiver in the nation. Great quarterback and some other weapons starting to emerge in that Utah game. So Arizona is going to keep rising, I feel like. This team is getting going.
Yeah.
And
maybe, I mean, it's weird seeing them in the Big 12, but I mean, come on.
It's been a little weird seeing them in the Big 12, but then there's this after dark game against Texas Tech, and I'm like, this game seems right for some reason. Like, I don't know why. It just feels right. And I'm very excited about it as a result.
And what is the opposite of right?
LSU.
Yes. LSU is everything that's wrong with college football. I honestly, if they would have lost one more game, I would not have them ranked. Like,
if they lost at South Carolina.
I don't think they really should be ranked. I mean, putting them at 18 was high for me. Like, Brian Kelly's purple face, you could talk about that all you want, but they look like a bad football team that is somehow winning.
Yeah.
South Carolina should have won that game.
Yeah, South Carolina should have won that game. Their QB even got hurt in the second half. And that's the only key win I could even put for LSU on this. I think they're very overrated. I don't know if we ended up ranking them just to say they're overrated or not, but we may have done that.
Probably.
I'm not a believer in this team. But they face a tough schedule, so they'll definitely have plenty of opportunities to get exposed. Probably even by the next time we do a poll, which, by the way, we only do these once a month.
Yeah.
Number 19, we just mentioned them a little bit, the Utah Utes. They need Cam Rising back.
I know, dude. This team is like okay without Cam Rising, but Cam Rising completes this team. I think his injury issues are a big concern, and I think what is he? He's a super senior, right? Like, he's done after this.
Yeah, like 7th year or something like that.
Yeah. So like they're gonna have to get another quarterback if they want to keep competing. But like, if they wouldn't have lost, I would have had them in the top 5. I would have put them above Georgia.
Their defense was looking, it is still very good. But their offense finally had that game where it's like, okay, we've gone without Cam Rising for too long, and it kind of collapsed within itself. So they have a bye week this week. Get him healthy. Hopefully he can come back and finally play. I just miss seeing him on the field at this point.
I know, he's an exciting player, dude.
Yeah. Oh man, I forget what the stat is. Because there's somewhat ridiculous name that's taken more snaps than Cam Rising. Oh, yeah, actually it was because Cam Rising tore his ACL on the same day that DeMar Hamlin went out down the field. and DeMar Hamlin's played significantly more since then.
Yeah.
Which is astounding.
Yeah.
Number 20, on a more positive note here, the UNLV Rebels. This team has been just awesome to watch. This is one of my favorite teams to watch this year. The go-go offense is still a go, even with the drama around Matthew Sluka leaving. Hodge Malik Williams might actually be better.
Yeah. I was about to bring all this up. NIL, what? Who cares?
Yeah.
We're paying this guy, not you. Get out. At UNLV is serious, dude. Like, you don't think of like when you think of like good schools, you don't think of Northern or Southern, like, unless it's referring to the state name itself as a good team, like North Texas or Northern Arizona. You don't really think of those teams as being good. Northern or Nevada, or I don't know why I went on that northern tangent. Thanks for letting me do that, Justin.
See, like, where are you going with this?
Honestly, I don't know. It's like almost 10 o'clock here. I've been ready for bed for a little bit.
I did not know where you're going with that. And I let you do it too. That was great.
Well, branch campuses don't usually end up being good. So, but UNLV is the exception. I think they can compete pretty well this year. And honestly, like, I think that whole NIL thing is going to fix itself, and either he's going to be there or it's not. Those are the facts. So might as well play to the best of your ability without him. Can't rely on him to be around. And if he is around, then cool. Like, he'll probably play a little bit. But I think he's, even if he does come back, he's been dethroned.
Oh, he's long gone at this point. Their star receiver Ricky White after the game was like, he was responding to stuff, and he was like, forget the 100K NIL to him. Give the offensive line 100K.
For real.
Like, the team responded to Hodge Malik Williams leading them. I think they actually like him a little bit better.
Probably.
It seems like he's a team guy, and I mean, everything just looked a lot smoother. They played a good Fresno State team and beat them 59-14. That was one of the more impressive results of the year. So yeah, this team has a lot of excitement. Another team with some excitement is the Illinois Fighting Illini. 4-1 in the year. Brett Bielema, the Big Orange or the Big Blue, depending on
what color they are that week.
He has the squad playing hard. They kind of got crushed by Penn State a little bit, not really in the scoreboard, but in terms of how the game went, they got crushed by them. But still, one of the more impressive wins of the year when they won at Nebraska.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, honestly, we probably could have put Nebraska in here near the end, but like,
yeah.
But I mean, like, Illinois is a fantastic football team. They're fun to watch. You don't really think of them like for a while we thought of them as basically the Vanderbilt of the Big Ten for a little bit. Rutgers, I guess, but they were down there in the Big Ten. They were buried, and the West isn't really that good. So like they're playing well. I really don't have much to say. I mean, that's about it. I mean, like, it's fun to see Illinois in the top 25, and I look forward to seeing them continue to stay here throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 22, another team that's fun to see in the top 25, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Hoosier!
They don't have much in the way of quality wins at this point, but just the eye test of this team, they are just blasting everyone, which is something you don't see from Indiana.
No.
At all.
And I thought they were going to take a step even further back when they lost Sorsby to USC. They're playing pretty well.
Yeah. Curtis Roark has stepped in, has crushed it at quarterback. He threw his first interception just this past week. But yeah, Kurt Signetti, is all that he talks about. Stepped in opening press conference. I win. Google me. And that's exactly what he's done. I mean, I mentioned Indiana in the preview, in the Big Ten preview, as a sleeper team to reach a bowl. They could be bowl eligible this week.
Yeah, dude, like that's crazy. Like I don't think we've seen Indiana this good in a long time.
Yeah, and actually, now obviously, we're not big believers in ESPN's analytics because they're not good at all. But they have Indiana as like the 10th most likely team to make the college football playoff.
That I like it. That's
people
crazy.
are talking. People are talking. It could. They're saying, maybe it could happen. Maybe we need to pump the brakes on that. I've seen some noise around that, so I might end up putting some shekels on Northwestern this week, just in case, because that's just what happens in Indiana. But we'll see. So we mentioned Kurt Cignetti. Brings us perfectly to his former team, which is also still doing well.
Yeah.
James Madison
James
Dukes.
Madison Dukes. I love James Madison, dude. Like I said this, I think I'm pretty sure I said this last show, but I mean, like they would be a good fit for if like Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and whatever decide to leave the ACC. I think James Madison would be a perfect fit. Now you said Virginia Tech, and Virginia may have something to say about that, but three-way rivalry in state, that would be perfect. James Madison blowing the doors off of everybody. They've scored almost 140 points in the last 2 weeks, and their offense is clicking.
Yeah, their offense is absolutely incredible. So
their
as you can tell,
turnover rate too.
Yeah. Winning in a different way than Kurt Cignetti won. When Cignetti was there, they dominated on the defensive side of the ball. Now with Bob Chesney, they are an offensive team, and their offense is just blasting people right now. Makes them a ton of fun to watch. Obviously, most famously leading North Carolina 53-21 at halftime before coasting to his 70-50 win.
And that 70-50 was a lot further apart than what it looked.
That's why I have to give the halftime score context, because when you're up by that much, obviously you kind of coasted a little bit in the second half. Next on our list, though, is the Boise State Broncos with the Heisman contender. So, Ashton Jeanty has been just absurd.
Dude, 82 carries, 846 yards, and like 14 touchdowns in 4 games.
It's nuts. And keep in mind, like, one of the games is Portland State. So, like, they barely played them that game. They basically gave him a rest and were like, okay, we can take care of that without him. So, like, the other 3 were games against, like, and this is against Oregon, against Washington State, like against good teams that he's doing this against. The Washington State game, it kind of felt like, in years past, like Boise State has blown close games that keep them from, getting back to the level they were in the early, late 2000s, early 2010s. They blow games late. It's getting to that point. Washington State had just scored a touchdown, 1-score game. Here they come. Washington State's going to come back and win this. And then Ashton Jeanty just breaks the most ridiculous run through the entire defense to score a touchdown to put Boise State back up 2 scores. And then, just for good measure, on the following drive, he bowls through 3 guys into the end zone to put the game away.
So he's getting LT comparisons.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. He's the most impactful running back we've seen in college football in a long time. Like, I'm trying to think the last time we had this impactful of a running back.
AP, maybe?
I maybe more recently than that, but yeah, to that level, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I mean, potentially Leonard Fournette at LSU, but they never actually beat Alabama. Um, but yeah, this is the most ridiculous run. Um,
Zeke
you know,
at
the
Ohio
rest of the
State,
team,
maybe.
he had a lot around him though. And they barely gave him the ball. But yeah, so like this is, this is a team that blocks well up front, especially for the run game. They're still figuring out the pass game. That's the one thing. But other than that, yeah, this team's looking really good. Um, to wrap up the top 25, we have the Louisville Cardinals. We got to see this team play in person, but not one of their quality wins, but it's
No,
a win nonetheless.
I will be honest with you. I agree with them in the top 25 here, but what I saw on the field wasn't necessarily top 25 play. Because doing that against Jacksonville State isn't like doing it against the rest of your conference.
Yeah, it was hard to tell how to judge it because
They had a lot of really
I'm
good plays, but they also had okay, you're a better talented team. You probably should have got that one. Or you probably
yeah.
shouldn't have been run over by the quarterback. Like stuff like that. Like I don't know. Like eye test tells me they're not a top 25 team, but stats tell me otherwise. So I mean the eye test isn't always right. They keep winning,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah. I mean, they're 3-1. When the win over Georgia Tech is a good one. Lost to Notre Dame. That was enough to put them in the top 25 for now. There are some teams that just barely missed the cut. And I mean barely because I wanted to rank them at one point.
I think a
Just
case could have been
outside.
made for Ole Miss. I mean,
That wasn't even one of the first five. We'll get to that in a second. Pitt was my first team out. It may have been close for you. Pitt has wins over West Virginia and UC. Offense looks good for them. Texas A&M has looked really good. I think they may have been next. Navy with the impressive win over Memphis. Then Rutgers, they're undefeated, but the one thing that kept them out was, even though they beat Washington, and that's a decent win, Washington did outgain them by double and just not score points. So that's a little bit concerning. And then finally, the other team that missed it was also Army. But yeah, Ole Miss was ranked by a lot of people. And that was another situation where I was very surprised to see where they showed up in the other polls.
I know they showed up in what, like the teens?
Yeah.
And they lost to Kentucky?
Lost at home to Kentucky with no other quality wins to bounce it out. I think people got impressed because they ran up the score against bad defenses. But the problem is, I think the issue with Ole Miss is, the offensive line isn't as great as expected. Kentucky bullied them. If Kentucky's going to bully them, they're going to get bullied throughout the rest of the conference play even. I think this offense can rack up the numbers against bad defenses, but I don't think it's going to show up against better defenses.
Oh, not at all. I think a case could have been made for Toledo also.
Yeah, but the Western Kentucky loss is a little tough. I couldn't get them in there.
I mean, I'm just thinking of past the top 25.
But yeah, I mean, there's other teams we could have thought of. SMU is starting to look better, but we'll see as the year goes on. We'll be doing another poll again in November. So with that, I think it's time now to look ahead. We are in week 6. In fact, week 6 games have been on our TV. Currently, I have Thursday night football from the Sun Bowl, Sam Houston and UTEP on my TV. Sam Houston leads that one 7-0. Let's go on to our week 6 picks. Oh man, that's a great shot of El Paso. All right, back to the week 6 picks. Conferences, we're looking at the American first. The American does not have a good slate this weekend, if I'm being honest. A lot of mismatches. Lots of teams on bye. So it's really hard to pick a game. So I just landed with an in-state battle, and the closest spread game, East Carolina at Charlotte. Who
Oh,
wins this one?
oh.
Hey! It's still going to be exciting. This
I'm
this will
gonna go with
decide.
East Carolina.
This is a big key game to reach bowl eligibility for both these teams. I have East Carolina winning as well, even though hopefully for our Dingwell Award, Jake Garcia manages to, sprinkle in a few more picks.
Is that Jeff
He's
Garcia's
at
son?
11 on the year. In the ACC, we have
You didn't
SMU
answer my
at
question.
Louisville.
That was a
What was that?
question for you. Is he Jeff Garcia's son?
He is not.
Interesting. All right, moving on.
ACC, SMU at Louisville. This is a big game in the ACC race. Who can enter the conference championship race? And the loser might be falling out of it.
I think judging by my top 25 answer, it's pretty obvious. I'm gonna go SMU.
Nice. I'm gonna oppose you on this one. I think Louisville at home plays to the Cardinals' favor. I see Louisville winning this one. On to the Big 12. We mentioned a little bit of it earlier. Texas Tech at Arizona after dark. This just has banger written all over it. Who do you think wins this one?
Arizona. Probably one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the nation.
Yeah, and I think Arizona is starting to pick it up a little bit. I think the play caller change is really helping them. Arizona is catching their stride. I see the Wildcats winning this one. On to the Big Ten. Michigan at Washington. Washington is favored in this one.
I'd put my money on Michigan for that.
I did already. I have Michigan winning as well. Conference USA. I just mentioned that UTEP and Sam Houston are currently playing on my TV right now. So because of the bye weeks before weeknight Conference USA games begin, we have only one game to choose from this week. That is Jacksonville State at Kennesaw State. Matt, who do you think wins this one?
Sam Houston. I'm gonna go Jacksonville State. It's not really. Both games are really like lopsided, to say the least. Kennesaw State doesn't have a win yet. So Jacksonville State for me. I like Jacksonville State a lot. Ridge Rod. Come on, man. Yeah. Let's do better.
Yeah. Last time out before the bye week, Jacksonville State won over Southern Miss 44-7. Tyler Huff, we mentioned him earlier, bowling through Louisville defenders when we were at the game. He is continuing to pick up steam, getting a lot better. Jacksonville State's getting better. Kennesaw State still figuring things out, to say the least. I got Jacksonville State winning this one as well. On to Maction. The Miami Redhawks face Toledo on the road. MAC championship rematch. Who do you think wins this one?
Toledo. If this was like 3 weeks ago, I would have said Miami, but Miami just fell flat on their face at the beginning of the season. Maybe they'll turn it around, but I think it's Toledo in this game.
Yeah, I had Toledo winning this one as well. I wondered what issues Miami would fix against UMass. The answer was not much. Miami's formula is they need to, run the ball, control the clock, avoid turnovers. They're doing none of that right now. They're not running the ball well. Brett Gabbert cannot stop turning the ball over in the red zone. Too much going on right now for me to not go with Toledo in this one. I have to go with the Rockets. Mountain West, Friday night banger. Friday night games have been crazy. This one is going to be a great one. Syracuse at UNLV. These programs playing for the first time, and it's in Vegas. Who do you think wins this one?
As much as I really like UNLV, I'm going to go Syracuse. Kyle McCord, I like him a lot better not at Ohio State. So I think that Syracuse is going to take this one.
I am going to be picking UNLV to win this one. I think the Rebels are picking up steam. I think the locker room really got stronger together. They after that situation happened, the team banded together. They are angry and playing their best ball right now. I got UNLV winning this one. SEC play, Missouri at Texas A&M. Who do you see winning this one?
This one was tough for me. Could have gone either way, but I'm going to go with Missouri. I think it's that quarterback wide receiver combo that's going to do it for me again.
I am going to be going with the upset here. Well, at least upset in terms of rankings, not so much in terms of Vegas. Texas A&M is favored for a reason. Eli Drinkwitz does not have a great road record. And Texas A&M is a tough place to play. I think the Aggies pull this one off.
Yeah, but they already lost there once this season, and Wegman sucks. So that's why I gotta go.
Then we have James Madison at UL Monroe in the Sun Belt. James Madison undefeated. UL Monroe, the Warhawks are 3-1. Can UL Monroe pull off the upset?
Go Dukes! Go Dukes! I can't yell that loud enough. Go Dukes!
Yeah, I have to go James Madison as well. As much as I would love to see UL Monroe pull this off, they did. This will be a huge win for that program. As it is, very much enjoying UL Monroe having a good season. But I think this might be a tough step in that process. It is going to be fun to see the matchup of James Madison's offense versus a really improved UL Monroe defense. But I have to go with the Dukes in this one. Then at the FCS level, a massive one. The North Dakota Fighting Hawks take on the North Dakota State Bison. Who wins this one?
I'm going to go with North Dakota State.
I am going to go with North Dakota. Well, we are here all night if you keep waiting on the state. I got the Fighting Hawks winning this one. Bubba Swigert's crew is playing really well right now. They put up 72 points last week. This week, I don't think they're going to put up that much because they're going to want to control the ball against a North Dakota State defense I'm not entirely sure on. I think the Fighting Hawks can roll into the Fargo Dome and pull off a massive upset at the FCS level.
Yeah, I don't, but I think it is going to be a great game. A lot of these were good matchups. Some of them were just kind of what the schedule gave us. Anything else to add, Justin?
That is all. End of the first quarter in the Sun Bowl. Sam Houston leads UTEP 7-0. Since it's late and we are tired and I want to get back to these games, we are not going to be doing a food section, but I may do a bird call next week to give us a food question. Stay tuned.
Yeah. If you are still watching, definitely give us some ideas for food related questions. That's the only free shout outs we'll give. We don't give free shout outs to really anything else.
Or other questions as well.
Yeah, give us any question. We'll see if we can throw it in at the end of the episode and start a discussion. But give us a follow on every social media platform at Updog Sports Talk. Like, subscribe, hit the little bell. Won't you ring my bell? Ring my bell for notifications on us. So when we post. I mean, most of the time it's just a live show and then the shorts from the live show. Occasional short every now and then, but we won't blow your phone up, I promise. And then we do have a website, www.updogsportstalk.com. You can check out Justin's blogs there. It takes you to
we do a FBS roundup every Monday. That releases every Monday morning, and an FCS roundup every Tuesday morning.
And there are some kinks with the website that we have to work through. Somehow Justin created like 9 other home pages to scroll through when he started posting on his blog. So I got to figure that out. Eventually I'm going to start posting more nostalgia posts. I think I did one earlier this year on the St. Louis Rams. Did a monologue on that one because Justin and Chad didn't want to join me for that. But baseball postseason is going on right now, and the Atlanta Braves have been eliminated.
R.I.P.
So the Kansas City Royals have moved on.
Our fantasy team. Because
we
right now
suck in fantasy.
in the chat, someone mentioned that their team is looking poo-poo, but our team is just a mess.
If Alec or if Austin Eckler doesn't go this week, we are forced to drop him so we can have an eligible lineup, because I do not feel like dropping Jordan Love, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
As you can see, all injured or bye week players are filling our bench right now.
Justin, did you know that Kareem Hunt is also questionable?
Oh, great. There's no way.
It doesn't seem to be a serious issue, is what they're saying.
What in the world is going on in the Sun Bowl right now?
Yeah, so
there's all these mascots and stuff on the field.
Our starting lineup that we are forced to do this week because of bye weeks and injuries is Jaden Daniels. Bruce Irving's going right now. He has 4 carries, 31 yards, 1 reception for 9 yards, 5 fantasy points currently. We have Zach Moss.
Oh, that's not good.
We have Dontavian Wicks, Stephon Diggs, Kareem Hunt, Austin Eckler, Austin Siebert, and the Bears defense. So Rams.
Our team stinks.
Yeah, please let Cooper Kupp come back soon. Joe Mixon, please play.
If Irving is like 5 points
at halftime.
If he ends up with 5 points, we may as well just give it up this week.
We might as well. I mean, yeah, we're losing 18-5 right now.
Yikes.
Drake London has 18.4 points, 6 receptions, 64 yards, and a touch.
Wow. So he's actually doing something.
Yeah. So we are going to.
Week 1 was a lot of fun with our
team. And the guy who said his team was poo-poo was undefeated. Shout out, Tony.
All right.
That's it. That's it. We're done.
Bye.
See you guys. Not bad.